Back in 2011, Kyrie Irving went number 1 in the NBA draft, and he became the legend that we all know today. But what happened to the guys drafted right after him? We're talking epic busts, career nosedives, and picks so bad they make you wonder if the scouts were all wearing blindfolds. Stick with us as we examine the careers of players from that fateful draft year to discover how quickly some prospects crashed and burned. At number 8, here's the story of Brandon Knight in the 2011 draft. The Detroit Pistons were a team adrift. They had a young core in Greg Monroe and Rodney Stuckey, but had just thrown money at free agents Ben Gordon and Charlie Villanueva in a desperate attempt to recapture their mid-2000s championship glory. It wasn't working. They'd only managed 30 wins the previous year. What they needed was pure talent, regardless of position. Thankfully, the streak of 6 straight big men picks ended here. The Pistons went with Brandon Knight, a point guard with loads of potential. He had the size, the athleticism, and that explosive scoring ability that mirrored stars like Derrick Rose, John Wall, and Russell Westbrook, guys who were taking the league by storm. Knight looked like a perfect fit for the new, fast-paced NBA. Sadly, things never quite clicked for him. He only lasted 2 seasons in Detroit. Sure, he showed flashes of brilliance, that scoring potential everyone saw in him, but injuries kept derailing his progress. It's a classic case of unfulfilled potential, a talented player whose career never reached the heights it seemed destined for. Okay, get ready for one of the most bizarre trades in recent NBA draft history. The Sacramento Kings, in a move that still baffles everyone, traded the number 7 pick to the Charlotte Bobcats. Now, what did they get in return? Well, prepare to be underwhelmed. They basically moved back 3 spots in the draft to number 10, took on some salary from other teams, and got nothing else of value. Seriously, the deal raises eyebrows to this day. Theories abound. Maybe the Kings misunderstood the whole thing? Whatever the reason, it was a head-scratcher. So the Bobcats, thanks to this strange twist of fate, now had 2 top 10 picks. Talk about draft day luck. With their first pick, number 7, they scooped up Bismack Biyombo. Now here's where things get interesting. Biyombo was an athletic big man with a huge wingspan and tons of energy, but that was about it. Offensively, there was basically nothing there, and his NBA career has proven that to be pretty accurate. He's had a few decent moments here and there, but overall, he hasn't lived up to the hype of being a top 10 pick. Now it's time to talk about one of the NBA's most infamous draft busts, a pick that made sense on paper but turned disastrous in reality. The Washington Wizards back in 2011 were in a rebuilding phase. Sure, they'd snagged John Wall with the number 1 pick the year before, but the rest of the roster lacked consistency and direction. They were hoping to build a playoff contender with additions like Bradley Beal and Otto Porter Jr. on the horizon, but in 2011, they struck out big time. With the 6th pick, they selected Jan Vesely. Now, Vesely was a star in Europe, a 6'11" combo forward overflowing with potential. He looked like exactly the kind of dynamic young player to pair with Wall. Sadly, that potential never materialized in the NBA. Vesely played less than 100 total points for Washington, a staggering failure for a top 6 pick. So, why is this one of the biggest draft busts of all time? Imagine if the Wizards had picked someone, anyone, who contributed to that Wall-era team. There's a chance they could have been a serious threat in the Eastern Conference. Instead, this missed opportunity lingered, leaving a what-if that casts a long shadow on their efforts to build a winner. Next up, the Toronto Raptors were in a weird place in 2011. They scraped together a miserable 22-win season, and their roster was a bit of a hodgepodge. They had a young DeMar DeRozan, a somewhat decent Andrea Bargnani, but not much of a clear direction as a team. So the draft, Toronto held the number 5 pick, and they went international, selecting Jonas Valanciunas, one of the top prospects from overseas. JV, as he was nicknamed, didn't start playing for Toronto until the 2012 season, and it definitely took some time for him to find his footing. But over the years, he became a solid, reliable starter, a key piece of some very good Raptors teams. Then things took a turn. Mid-season in 2019, Valanciunas was shipped to the Memphis Grizzlies in a trade that brought another big man, Marc Gasol, to Toronto. The timing is interesting though, because that was the same season the Raptors made a historic run, trading for Kawhi Leonard and going all the way to the NBA championship. At number 4, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. They had 2 top 5 picks. Crazy, right? Things were pretty bleak for Cleveland. They'd won a pathetic 19 games the year before, and it was their first season without the legendary LeBron James. Desperate times for sure. So how'd they end up so lucky? One pick was theirs, but the other, the number 1 overall pick they used for Kyrie Irving, actually came from the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers were in a rush to get rid of Baron Davis's big contract, and thanks to some lottery magic, they ended up giving Cleveland the top pick in the draft. Back to number 4, where the Cavs were picking again. With Kyrie already on board, their biggest need was, well, everything else. They went with another big guy, Tristan Thompson. Now, this pick got some flack. Thompson was all hustle and rebounding, but not much of a scorer. That's not what you usually look for in a top 5 guy. Some scouts barely had him in the top 10, but you know what they say about hindsight. Thompson became a rebounding machine, a tough defender who could switch onto different kinds of players. In a draft year where a lot of the big guys at the top fizzled out, Thompson carved out a long, successful career. Turns out the Cavs, even with 2 high picks, still needed a bit of luck to get it right. Choosing Thompson was a risk, but it paid off big time. He may not have been a superstar scorer, but he became a vital part of their championship run in 2016, proving sometimes the best picks aren't the flashiest ones. Moving on, let's take a closer look at Utah's situation at number 3. The Jazz found themselves with an unexpected top pick due to a trade with the Brooklyn Nets, then helmed by infamous GM Billy King. King, known for his questionable decisions, had shipped away star point guard Deron Williams just months earlier, receiving a package that included Derek Favors, Devin Harris, a 2013 first-round pick, and this coveted number 3 selection. This move signaled a clear shift for the Jazz. Excitement surrounded the Jazz's young core. They had Gordon Hayward, a promising young player drafted the previous year, and a formidable frontcourt featuring Al Jefferson, Paul Millsap, and the newly acquired Favors from the Williams trade. The problem? Similar to the Minnesota Timberwolves at number 2, the 2011 draft offered a surplus of frontcourt talent, not exactly what the Jazz needed. Their solution? Enes Kanter, a Turkish prodigy and former 5-star recruit. Kanter's college career never materialized due to NCAA ineligibility issues, but his potential was undeniable. A tenacious rebounder with a skilled offensive repertoire, he looked like a solid addition. However, his skill set overlapped with the other big men already on the roster, making him a bit redundant. Kanter's NBA journey wasn't a meteoric rise. It took him time to carve out a niche, but eventually, both in Utah and later in Oklahoma City, he carved out a valuable role as a high-energy bench scorer and dominant offensive rebounder. While not the ideal outcome for a top 3 pick, Kanter's success highlights the limitations of the 2011 draft class. In a year lacking elite talent, the Jazz managed to find a solid contributor, a testament to their scouting and development abilities. What do you do when you're an NBA team with a young superstar like Kevin Love, Ricky Rubio, but you're still rebuilding from a dismal 17-win season? That was the Minnesota Timberwolves' dilemma in the 2011 draft. They needed talent badly, but the next crop of surefire prospects were all front-court players, not the best fit when you already have a force like Kevin Love in the paint. So they took a gamble on Derek Williams at number 2. Now, this guy was an athletic combo forward who some argued could even have gone number 1 ahead of Kyrie Irving. He was explosive, a scoring threat, the kind of dynamic young star that seemed like the perfect complement to Love and the pass-first wizardry of Ricky Rubio. Analysts envisioned a killer core with Williams, Rubio, and Love, a trio that could light up the league. Sadly, Williams turned out to be a tweener, that dreaded in-between player with no clear position. Making things worse, his ideal spot was power forward, right where Love was already an all-NBA talent. Plus, his offensive game, especially his long-range shooting, never clicked like everyone hoped. He lacked the defensive chops to really shine as a small forward, and his size wasn't ideal for banging with bigger power forwards night after night. Long story short, Williams hung around the league for 7 seasons, but left Minnesota after just 150 games. It was a massive disappointment, a classic case of a talented player just not meshing with his team's needs. Who knows? Maybe with a different team, a different system, things could have turned out better. Sometimes potential and fit just don't align. And unfortunately for Williams and the Timberwolves, that was the sad reality. If you like this video, make sure to watch next. What happened to the top 7 players drafted before Giannis Antetokounmpo? Click on the video now and don't forget to follow for a taco.